Story 1. Leave, no leave, yes leave, edit. I didn't expect this to blow up like this. I just wanted to vent to the anonymity that is the internet. Thanks for the feedback all. If nothing else, I learned that K is not what I thought it was, smiley face. K, stupid me, became enter. Thanks for the tip y'all. English is not my first language, but I learned something, smiley face. In regards to people asking how leave is counted, it's per hour. We work 35 hours per week. The 5-1-5-1-5-1 arrangement was a systematic example. Of course, I didn't have enough leave to fill the gap, but with roughly 700 hours overtime, I had about 26 weeks. So yeah, it was more like 5-1-3-1-1-1-1-1. But I can see how this got confusing. How so much overtime? Basically, overtime could be infinitely transferred to the next year as long as no one complains. And as most of you will know, in the IT sector it is really easy to work too much hours. This has changed recently because of issues that arose from it. A bit of background. I work as the sole IT guy in a firm with about 75 people that is part of a larger nationwide mother firm. Our local firm has an ongoing agreement with another local firm that we play backup for each other in case either one needs help/backup/knowledge sharing/whatever. This has been the case since 2009. I work for this firm since 2002. Kind of an old hand if you want. We have this generous leave package that builds the longer we work here. A starter has 180 hours per year leave. Someone with 20 plus years has 240 hours. I have that. Now, because we have this much leave, I'm of a mind not to be all too strict with the when and the how. I'm single and have no kids, so I'm happy to let others with kids take priority to handle school holidays. As such, the last 15-something years I have always taken the bulk of my leave in September/October and the rest in Fridays counting back from New Year, if that makes sense. The only rules we have regarding when and how we take leave is no more than 6 weeks together. You can't transfer more than 7 days to the next year, and leave must be approved, which it almost always is. Enter my big boss. As per usual, I put in my leave request for September/October somewhere in May. This gets approved. Around August, we get news from our hardware vendor that they will be installing our new server cluster in the end of September. Not cool, but what you gonna do? I talk it over with Big Boss and agree to move my leave to February/March of the next year. I don't mind too much. He is happy, I am happy, and we go ahead and plan it all in. Enter my department head. Since I am a one-man department, but core are gonna be core, I have a department head that oversees my department along with a few others. Somewhere end of September, she walks into my office and tells me when I am planning to take the bulk of my leave. I tell him about the server cluster install and that my leave is moves to February/March. Now, one cannot be a department head or part of Manglement and still be reasonable, right? So he tells me that since I won't be taking my leave in this year, it will be forfeit. I tell him I have an agreement with Big Boss, to which he states that he talked about it with Big Boss and that the arrangement won't work since he didn't approve it. I take my phone and call Big Boss. He states that, indeed, my leave will not be approved and can't be moved to next year. So I tell him okay. Enter MC. I was pissed. Not just angry, but genuinely ready to murder someone pissed. So I took a half day and went home and mulled things over. With age comes wisdom, and I know not to take decisions when I am that angry. Next day I go in and ask a leave statement from our HR department that has a counter of all our leave and, more important, overtime. I had around 700 hours overtime standing, accrued over the years, and 220 hours leave. So I put in 5 weeks leave, 1 week 1 overtime, 5 weeks leave, 1 week overtime, and so on till I landed in the first week of January. Then I put in the remaining overtime and landed in the end of February. Next to that, I sent in my resignation and 3 months' notice, which I planned exactly on the last day of my leave. Not half an hour later, my Big Boss and department head are at my desk asking me what gives. I told them that since department head had told me I couldn't transfer the leave, I would be taking it this year, and since the agreement to move my leave was broken, I felt I didn't have another choice but to look for other work where agreements in fact were honored. I asked them what rule of the worker's manual regarding leave I had broken, and if any, could they point it out? Guys, before we proceed to the rest of the story, if you're not subscribed to the channel, just take a second now and click that subscribe button. It does help support me a lot, and I really appreciate it. After that talk, I went home and the waiting game began. Big Boss called me next morning on my work cell asking me to come in. Sorry, no. I'm on leave. Happy to make a pot of coffee if you want to drop by. So he drops by. Things get talked about. Seems his department head wasn't entirely upfront with him, although he wasn't innocent either, and he wants to make things right. My 6 months leave stayed in place and he offered to match the offers I would get from other firms to keep me on board, within reason. Conclusion: all in all, now I still work for the same firm with a 15% wage increase. I don't do overtime anymore. Neither does my laptop come home with, and my work phone stays at work too. I still do my job to the best of my abilities, but at the end of the day, if my hours are done, I go home. The building can be on fire, if my clock is out, I am out the door. Now me leave gets planned around my preference too. No more shifting around other people's leaves.
Story 2. Entitled People. That's what reservations are for. A few years ago, I worked a job that required me to travel a lot. From Monday night through Thursday night, I pretty much lived in a hotel room. I did this job for 10 years. Because my destinations were nearly always in the same cities, with my meetings at nearly the same location, I stayed at the same motels. The company I worked for paid for the hotels and expenses. They also had no issue with me joining rewards programs with the various hotel chains I frequented. After a time, several of the hotels knew me by name. One hotel in particular had a room that they referred to as Mr. Theologian's room. With another chain, I had more than made diamond status on their rewards program and had over 750,000 points. So when I would call and reserve a room, they would automatically upgrade me to a presidential suite, if they had it available, or a master suite if the presidential was not available. So one Monday afternoon, I arrived at my motel destination with my reservation information handy in case I got a new person at the desk. As I entered the lobby with my luggage, a couple was at the desk and there seemed to be an issue. The desk person, which was the manager, was trying to explaining to this couple that the hotel was filled. The man was saying he had called to check on rooms earlier that day for the event going on in the city and had been told there were rooms still available. There was an event in that city that week and all the hotels were full. I knew about the event in advance and had made a reservation 2 months in advance. Knowing I was going to be there at the same time as the event, I planned ahead. The woman in this couple had become unhinged before I had arrived. The woman was shouting obscenities and making claims of racism. The man kept asking to speak with the manager, which he was. The guy was frustrated and upset, but he was also trying to keep his cool and calm his nearly rabid female companion down. It was really embarrassing to stand there and watch this go on. After about 15 minutes or so, they reluctantly gave up and decided to leave. As they stormed past me, the man tells me, "Give it up, man, ain't no rooms here." I go up to the desk and the front desk manager greets me and says that my room is ready. Well, the couple that were leaving hear this, and I only thought that woman had been loud the first time. The woman came flying back to the front desk, demanding to know why I had been given a room and they had been turned away. And now I was the target of some of her ire. I tried explaining that I had a reservation, but that didn't seem to matter. I, along with the front desk manager, were being called all manner of obscenities and being accused of all kinds of crimes. The woman, without warning, suddenly turns at me and tries to kick me. Though she only managed to kick my suitcase. Her male companion came over and trying to get her to calm down, and he is now apologizing for her. But she just keeps on and on. This goes on for 5, maybe 10 minutes before the police arrived. The manager had sounded an alarm because she felt endangered. Having a big city-wide event, the police were traveling in pairs, so there are two of them. The police managed to get the woman somewhat calmed down and start taking statements. The woman keeps demanding that I be arrested for stealing their hotel room. My statement was easy: I'm here on business. Here is a copy of my reservation made 2 months earlier, and no, I don't want to press charges for attempted assault. After the police take everyone's statements, they tell the couple they have to leave or they will be arrested. The man seemed a little pissed off but agreed. His female companion exploded. I'm not going to go into detail on what all she had to say here. Her male companion was now telling her to shut the F up and just go, but no. She want her hotel room that she was entitled to, her actual words. It didn't end well for her. She slapped a cop. What happened next happened so fast it was incredible. The cop she slapped spun her around, put her in cuffs, and hauled her out to the car. It took all of maybe 45 seconds. At the same time, the other cop turned on her companion. This guy immediately threw his hands up in the air and said, "I'm not with her." The guy then kept apologizing for her behavior as he left. The cops finished up and left. I could see the woman in the back of the car crying and saying something to the cops as they left. The rest of that week went by pretty much uneventful. If you have interesting stories to share, you send me a message here so we can all laugh and cry about it. Story 3. You need to run a lap or you can't play at recess. This happened to me when I was in 3rd grade back around 1977. I was a skinny kid and not very athletic. I did not realize until I was an adult that I had a mild case of asthma. I could run in spurts, but any time I tried to run for more than a minute or two, my lungs would burn and I would get dizzy, so I rarely ran for any length of time on purpose. One day at school, we had a substitute teacher, and when it came time for PE, we were told to go run a lap around the perimeter of the school play field. I remember the run was about 600 yards, because when we had field days, one of the races was a 600-yard dash, which was a run around the perimeter of the field. Anyway, we never had to do this for PE. We usually did some jumping jacks or other calisthenics, then just got to play kickball or foursquare or soccer for PE. I told the substitute I could not run that far and if I can just run to the far end and come back. She said just do my best. I didn't really want to run because I knew I would feel really bad if I tried. I told her again I was pretty sure I would feel sick if I tried to run the whole distance. She tried motivating me and said she believes in me and knows I was capable or something like that. She said if I didn't at least try, I couldn't play at recess. So I said okay, but be ready to take me to the nurse when I get sick. She then lined up all the kids in the class and yelled, "Go." I started out at a slow jog and did my best to keep up with the other kids, but quickly fell behind. About a quarter way into the lap, my lungs were burning really bad, but I kept going as fast as I could to see how long it would take until I got sick so I could prove to the sub that I wasn't lying. It was about another 50 or so yards, and all I could remember was that everything went black. When I came to, I was face down in the dirt behind one of the baseball backstops. I poked my head up and saw a bunch of adults walking around the field looking for something. I picked myself up and started heading back to the school building. The sub came running up to me looking horrified and asked where I was. I said I didn't know. My face and clothes were covered in dirt and I was still in a daze. The sub said something like she didn't think I was serious about not being able to run that far. I can't remember much after that besides other people talking to her while I was led to the nurse's office by another teacher. I just sat out the rest of PE in the nurse's office. I think she got fired because another teacher covered our class the rest of the day, and I also never saw her as a sub again. Looking back, all she had to do was ask some of the other kids if I was telling the truth, because I was definitely the worst athletic kid in that class. Oh well, I hope she learned to believe kids a little more when they say they will get sick if they tried doing something strenuous. Guys, if you like to be featured, just shoot me a message. Remember to like and subscribe. Subscribe for daily Reddit stories.